welcome. We are at the financial heart of India that has stood witness to the changing times in the Indian economy. Rewind to 1991, where Manmohan Singh was the poster boy of the liberalization era. And by the time he bid farewell to his prime ministerial role, the growth was at a decade low. The inflation at an average 10% and the rupee was breathing uneasy. But it was on the 16th of May, the historic day where India chose its majority government, and the bulls were back with a bang, and the street is running high with optimism this super budget season.
Markets have great expectations from the coming budget, and it could be a landmark budget of the type that we have seen in the past. And we would like to know the specific sectors which are being prioritized by the government for additional spending. And that, I think, would be, give us clues or ideas as to which are the sectors and stocks in the stock market which could do well going forward. For example, is it going to be irrigation? Is it going to be power transmission? Is it going to be ports or aviation?
To give you an idea, it is like the union government earns about 10 rupees and spends about 15 rupees. And the budget for the vote on account for this year is talking about earning 11 rupees and spending 17 rupees. So there is, and out of that 17 rupees, 2.5 rupees are paid to your poor neighbor or poor relative as subsidies. So it's a huge burden of subsidies of nearly 1/6 of the budget is going out as subsidies. So the market will clearly look at, is there any rationalization of subsidies, and undeserving recipients are weeded out and it is more targeted.
I will be looking for a repeal of the retrospective taxes, intelligent recasting of the welfare schemes, a roadmap for fiscal consolidation. And when I say subsidies, I would also like the government to look at corporate giveaways too. After all, we all tend to focus on welfare subsidies as an area of wasteful spending. But specific subsidies given to corporations should also be looked at.
These, as emphasized, ushering in of good times under the Modi government. But if the road to the 7 RCR has been tough for Modi, it's the road ahead from here that will define Modi's mandate. As the country awaits its first budget under the new government, and the challenges are real on the ground.
Growth has slowed down in the last 2 or 3 years, and it is imperative that our GDP growth rate be accelerated very rapidly. And I think 2 or 3 things need to be done. One, income tax slabs need to be raised so that people have more discretionary and disposable income. 2, in many industries where industrial production rates have fallen, excise duty needs to be cut. And thirdly, the negative impression created by the retrospective tax amendments and the tax cases based on transfer pricing should be withdrawn. I think the only thing that can boost the sector now is that GDP growth rate is restored at an early date. The other very important reform that can both help the GDP growth of the country and the FMCG sector is introduction of the goods and services tax legislation. Of course, that will need a constitutional amendment. So I think we cannot expect it much before, say, April 2015.
I don't know exactly what you could do in a short while that the government's been there for the budget, but I'm sure that some policy announcements can happen. But the budget will be more restricted to the tax issues. But these policy announcements can happen in the budget, or some of these policy announcements can even happen later. But since you talk of the financial sector, one of the issues around the financial sector, for example, would be capital requirement of the banks. I think sentiments have improved dramatically. I say this on the back of 2 things. I was on a roadshow in the US last week where we met a number of investors, and I could sense that the euphoria, the confidence about India was dramatically high. I've never seen this kind of improvement in sentiment, or this kind of strong sentiment towards India. As far as local investors are concerned, when we talk to our friends in industry, we hear so many of them talking about reviving plans which they at one time would have had for making fresh investments into India, for starting new businesses, for creating new offices, for starting new factories.
Looking at the infrastructure sector, what I'm expecting from this budget is a clear direction which will indicate how they're going to create a new environment for investment in this country, because that is the first and most important thing to be done in order to create the possibility of investments. So whether they will do something in the area of taxation, something in the area of retrospective taxation, something in the area of what is the direction in which they're going to create a more fiscal prudence in doing what they are doing in terms of their expenditures. All this will indicate to us whether they're creating a climate for investment and an environment for investment. It will not all happen in the budget, but we will get a direction in which the government is going and how they propose to create a more predictable, more credible and a more certain environment.
Modi's campaign took a political twist with the tea vendor jibe. But now, as his government prepares the first budget, what a better way to understand the impact of inflation other than this tea cup, which used to cost about 2 rupees just 10 years back, but is now 12 rupees. That's the price rise that the Aam Aadmi is dealing with in almost every commodities, and the sectors across the India Inc. are feeling the pinch.
Massive expenditures which would only lead to inflation. So I think the sequencing is really important for big countries with lots of poor people. So we need first the growth and then substantial, mind you, I have emphasis on substantial, expenditures becoming feasible on health, education, etc. We cannot have the sequence the other way.
Inflation, as you know, food prices have had an effect in the last couple of months, and our hope is that with appropriate food management, some of these prices will come down. We have to wait and watch, but both the government and the RBI have to be vigilant on it.
So the inflation has more spiraling impact, and that is on your auto loan and your home loan. Your dream home and dream car is getting more expensive thanks to the central bank, which tweaks monetary policy to control the loan rate on ground. And well, the banking sector is feeling the crunch and the pinch as well. Here are the expectations from the banking sector and also from the real estate sector, which is dealing with high home loans and depleting sales.
I think the last few years have had their own set of challenges on the economic front, and I've always said that the banking sector really rides on the real economy. So we saw growth slow down, we saw a slowdown on corporate investment activity, we saw the cash flows of the corporate sector getting tighter and a dwindling of confidence. Elections have really given a clear mandate, which I think should be used for decisive decision making and bringing back confidence in the economy. So we definitely are at the cusp of change, but we must also remember that the recovery would be gradual. And as the recovery takes place, what we are gearing ourselves at the ICICI Bank is to sustain on all the the strong parameters that we built at the bank, and at the same time to capitalize on all the growth opportunities that keep coming along the way.
I think it's quite apparent from the government and the tone that we've seen so far last few weeks. The government wants to really make sure that the poor needs are addressed when it comes to housing. How can that really work? They'll have to ensure that the approval is through single window. They have to ensure that the debt for construction is provided at low cost. They have to ensure that the buyer is able to take loan and have access to those institutes who give loan at a lowest interest rate possible.
Now, India is one of the youngest and the largest car markets in the world. But for the past 2 years, it's been a bumpy ride for the auto sector, which has seen a slump in growth for the past 15 months. And here's a hope from the auto sector that Modi will wave his magic wand.
This budget is going to be very important for India in many ways, because this sets the agenda for the new government for the next 5 years on the direction that they will be taking, and therefore it becomes very important. Having said that, the government has not had too much time from the formation to this budget, and therefore I'm not sure they will use the budget for any big bang announcements. Maybe they do, but they would probably need to wait and understand a little bit more of all the intricacies and implications of anything. As far as the automotive industry is concerned, our biggest concern, if I could say, is a continuation of the excise reduction that was done in the interim budget. It's very important that continue, because the auto industry by no means has turned the corner yet. There are some signs of revival, but it's still in the negative zone by and large, and therefore it's important that continues, and auto industry is requesting and hoping that there is no rollback of that reduction in excise duty.
The excise duty was brought down because of the slow economy. The motorcycle sales had also slowed down. Any reduction in the price of any product does give it some kind of a fillip. I'm personally hopeful that the excise duty at the current rates would be maintained in the forthcoming budget in July.
For the tech-savvy Prime Minister, who has been seen using digital and the social media space, the IT sector, which employs over 20 lakh people, is the backbone of the global outsourcing hub, and it wants tax SOPs and better special economic zones to set up the IT parks across the country.
I hope we will see good days. I hope the poorest of the poor will see better days. And I hope our exports will increase. I hope doing business in India will become easier. I hope we'll create lots of jobs.
But even as foreign investments remain key to spur growth, the controversial decision for the Modi government will be to stick to its manifesto promise and not opt for the FDI in the multi-brand retail.
Do need investments in various sectors. They will get it, especially if you will see that in infrastructure, in their entire plan for 100 smart cities, which I think is a very smart idea. If they need funds for creating the diamond quadrilateral, they will bring in investments where it is needed. FDI in retail is something that their manifesto is against. It's a small part of the entire cake. So it's going to be a minor irritant, but not so important.
If there is an interest explicitly mentioned that the retail sector will not be the focus area for the new by the new government, I think that's all right, as far as there's clarity on that front. But there are other sectors that are going to be opened up by the government, and if there are steps about opening up the threshold, setting a common threshold about 49%, where the local company will still hold enough leeway in terms of managerial control, more in terms of what the taxation will be for foreign companies. These things will work towards encouraging the investors.
So there are many expectations from Modi's super budget. We take a short breather out here, but on the other side, we take a look at the backbone of India's entrepreneurial spirit, the small businesses. Also, we check out the agriculture sector and the much needed corporatization which that sector demands. On the other side of this break, stay with us.